Hey everyone, this is Teresa Foley. I am the host of Dark Thoughts of Hope. I wanted to come live for a few minutes, if this actually is live. Just say hello, see how everyone's day is going, see what you guys are up to. I hope you guys are all going to have a great weekend. I'm going to a football game at my old high school tonight. It means a lot to me, to be honest, because like I said in previous podcast episodes, my ex that I met when we were in, middle school, passed away in May, and I'm not going to lie, it hit me hard. You know, it really, it crushed me, because while I once fibbed to him about it, I did love him. And I wish that I didn't lie to him the one day when we were having a conversation about who we ever loved. Because when he said, yeah, I know, me, I just got so upset. Like, yeah, you, obviously, but you weren't the only one. And I don't know. I wanted to hurt him, and I feel so horrible about it now because I think that might have been our last conversation over the phone. I honestly don't know. I know I spoke to him a couple times on Messenger, but I don't know what our last conversation on the phone was. So it's been rough, but I feel like tonight is going to be a good night because I'll be at my old high school, surrounded by my community, watching a good football game. Go Rams. And who knows? Maybe I'll make a friend or two. You never know. Anything could happen. All right. Well, I want to also continue reading a little bit more of I Know What You Did Last Summer since I'm here anyway. So here we go. Let's see. Where am I? Oh, here we go. How are you doing, Julie? Okay, Julie said. Fine. She went forward and put her hand in his, holding it formally, then releasing it. It was a harder hand than she remembered. I didn't know you were back. Your last card was from the coast. You said you were working on some kind of fishing boat. I was. The guy who owns the boat has a kid who works with him in the summers. There wasn't room for both of us. That's too bad, Julie said, because she could think of nothing else to say. Not really. Jobs like that are on again, off again. I was about ready to come home for a while anyway. He was waiting for her to sit down, so she did. Not beside him on the sofa, but in the armchair facing him. He took his seat again. Your mom's been telling me about your getting your go-ahead from Smith. That's great. You must really have been keeping your nose to the grindstone. She has, Miss James said with pride. You wouldn't have known her this year, Ray. I don't know whether it's because you haven't been here to keep her out half the night or whether she just suddenly decided to buckle down, but the results have been remarkable. That's great, Ray said again. Miss James rose. I've got a cake waiting to be iced in the kitchen, and I know you kids have a lot of catching up to do. I'll bring you out a piece when I get it done. I can't stay long, Ray said. I have a date, said Julie, in just a few minutes. She didn't meet his eyes when she said it, although she knew, of course, that he would probably expect her to have a date on a Friday night. He had undoubtedly done his own share of socializing out in California. She wondered what he would think of Bud. Bud was so far from the type of boy she had dated in school, so far from Ray's type. Though Ray himself had changed tremendously since she had last seen him. He looked older. He was very tan. His light hair grew thick and long down over his ears, and his brows were bleached pale over his cat green eyes. As Helen had reported earlier, he had grown a beard. It was short and stubby, and it looked as though it belonged on somebody else's face. They sat in awkward silence after Miss James left the room. Then they both spoke at once. "It's nice that you," Julie began, and Ray said, "I just thought." They both stopped speaking. Then Julie said carefully, "It's nice that you came by." "I thought I'd say hello," said Ray. "I've thought about you a lot. I just wanted to see how you were." "I'm fine," Julie repeated, and the green eyes that knew her so well, that had seen her through so many situations, through parties and picnics and cheerleading tryouts and being caught cheating on a math test and coming down with chicken pox right before the homecoming, those eyes kept looking in disbelief. "You don't look fine. You look like hell. Has it been dragging on you like this ever since?" "No," Julie said. "I don't think about it. I don't believe you." "I don't," Julie told him. "I don't let myself." She lowered her voice. "I made up my mind to that right after the funeral. I knew if I kept thinking, well, what good would have that done? People go crazy dwelling on things they can't change." She paused. "I sent him flowers." Ray looked surprised. "You did?" "I went down to People's Flower Shop and bought yellow roses. I had them delivered without my name on them. I know it was silly. I couldn't help it. It was just, I felt I had to do something, and I couldn't think of anything else." "I know," Ray said. "I felt the same way. I didn't think about sending flowers. I kept waking up at night and seeing that curve in the road again, that bicycle coming up suddenly out of the dark like that. And I'd feel the thud and then the bump as the wheels went over it. I'd lie there and shake. And that's why you went away." It was a statement, not a question. "Isn't that why you're going to Smith, to get away from here? You've never cared that much about college. You used to talk about maybe taking a secretarial course or something right here in town while I went to the university. Going east to school was the last thing you ever had on your mind." "Barry's at the U now," Julie said. "He's on the football team. I saw Helen yesterday at lunch. She looked pretty." "She's a golden girl," Julie said. "Did you know Channel 5 has this beauty contest thing based on photographs and Helen won it? She's got a full-time job representing the station for all kinds of things, giving spot announcements and news flashes and weather reports. She even has her own disc jockey show in the afternoons." "Great," Ray said. "Are they still going together?" "I guess so. I saw them today." Julie shook her head. "I don't know how Helen can do it. Keep going with him, I mean. She was there. She saw him that night. She heard the things he said. How can she still think he's so wonderful? How can she even stand to have him touch her?" "It was an accident," Ray reminded her. "God knows Barry didn't plan it. It could have been me driving the car. It would have been if I hadn't won the toss for the back seat. But you would have stopped." There was a long silence as the words hung there between them. "Would I?" Ray asked. "Of course," Julie said sharply. "And then, wouldn't you?" "Who knows?" Ray shrugged his shoulders. "I tell myself I would have. You think I would have, but how could we know?" "How can you know anybody's going to react in a situation like that? We'd all had a few beers and smoked a little pot. It all happened so fast. You phoned for the ambulance. You wanted to go back, but I didn't insist on it. You wanted to go back too, but we didn't. We let Barry talk us into the pack. I could have held out, but I didn't. I must have wanted to be talked into it. I'm no better than Barry, Jew. So don't try to make him the Black Knight and me the prince on the white charger. It just isn't that way. You're as bad as Helen," Julie said. "The both of you. You formed the great society for admiring Barry Cox. You'd stick up for him no matter what he did. You should have heard her tonight, begging him to call her this weekend. And here they are supposedly going steady. It's just so degrading." "I don't see anything degrading about sticking by your guy if you care about him." Ray's brows drew together in that quizzical look she knew so well. "What were you doing at Helen's anyway? I thought you'd burned all your bridges, that you were cutting ties with all of us." "I have," Julie told him. That is, I meant to. Today I got a letter in the mail. It upset me, and I called Helen, and then she called Barry, and suddenly we were all there, hashing it over. I wish now I'd just chuckled it off and not made such a big deal about it. Ray looked interested. What sort of letter? Just a prank thing. Helen says she's getting them sometimes in phone calls too, but I never have before, so I overreacted. She opened her purse and fished out the envelope. Here it is if you want to see it. Ray got up and came over and sat on the arm of her chair. Taking the letter out of her hand, he opened it and read it. Barry thinks it was written by some kid, Julie said, that it doesn't really mean anything. It happened to have hit on something that got through to me. She paused, watching his face as he studied the black line printing. Is that what you think? It's possible, Ray said, but it's one hell of a coincidence. Why pick you? Do you know anybody who could have done it? Barry thought, maybe some boy from school. You said you're dating? He raised his eyes from the paper. This guy you're going out with tonight, is he the practical joker type? As far from it as you can get, said Julie. Bud's a nice guy, older, serious about everything. He's been through Vietnam. The last thing he'd ever do is write a silly note. Are you in love with him? The question was so sudden, so far away from the previous discussion that she was unprepared. No, she said. But is he with you? I don't think so. Maybe a little. Please, Ray. This is just a nice guy I met one day in the library. He asked me out, and Mom had been bugging me about never going anywhere anymore, so I went. And then it was just easy to keep on. Besides, what difference does it make to you? You and I, we're not going anymore together. Aren't we? He reached out a hand and placed it gently under her chin, tilting her face up so that it was raised to his. The face that looked down at her was familiar, darker and stronger than she remembered it, framed with shaggy hair and a beard. But the eyes were the same. No stranger could ever look at her through Ray's eyes. It's still there, he said. You know it is. You could feel it, just the way I could. The moment you walked into the room, we had too good a thing for too long. We can't just let it go. That's how it has to be, Julie said. I mean it, Ray. I really do. It's the only way we'll ever forget. I'm going to leave here, leave all the people and places connected to that dreadful night, and never look back. It's over and done with. There's no repairing it, so I'm going to erase it. And you think that's possible? His voice was sad. Honey, something like that doesn't get erased. I thought maybe it could be too there in the beginning. That's why I packed up and took off. New places, new people. I thought that would do it, but it didn't. You can't run away. You at Smith, me out in California, it's still there with you. I realized that finally. That's why I came home. If you can't run away, Julie said chokingly, what can you do? Face up to it? You mean break the pact? No, we can't do that, but we can talk to the others. We can dissolve the pact if we're all in agreement. Barry will never agree to it, and if he won't, Helen won't. The doorbell rang. Ray's hand dropped to his side. He got up from the arm of her chair. That must be your friend. I guess so. He was picking me up at 8. Julie's eyes went nervously from Ray's face to the door. Don't worry, I'll behave myself. I'll probably even like him. He's got good taste in girls anyway. They went to the door together and Julie introduced them. Bud said, Raymond Bronson, you in relation to Booter Bronson who runs the sporting goods store? His son. I hear you just got back from Nam. I don't envy you that stint. They shook hands civilly and stood and talked a few moments in pleasant fashion, as though they might have been friends if given the chance. Then Ray left and Julie excused herself and went upstairs to comb her hair. Oh, there's only 30 seconds left. I'll continue the rest of this another day. God bless and have a great afternoon.